Calling our budget workshop to order at 3:04 p.m. Thank you to City Manager as well as Finance Director Kiki Roman and all of the staff directors that have diligently worked to present us a very good budget for this upcoming fiscal year. We know it's something that you all have been working on for several months before and since the mid-year budget. So thank you all for the diligent work that you've put in. Thank you to the commissioners. I don't think all of us attended private sessions with Ms. Roman or City Manager Gaynor. However, those that were able to go and receive detailed information regarding this budget, thank you for taking the time to do that so that we can be more knowledgeable about the budget. Although we know that we've approved a budget review committee or finance review committee, it is still our responsibilities as commissioners to have oversight of the fiscal affairs of our city. And so I think it's very important for us to be proactive in attaining the knowledge that's necessary so we can make very good decisions as it relates to this budget. So how I would like to sort of go through this, we'll have introductory remarks from either City Manager or Ms. Kiki Roman, and then we'll go through the budget sort of page by page if you have any specific questions. So we're not going to go line item by line item because we should all be, as commissioners, familiar with the budget at this point. But we will go page by page. If you have specific questions on that page, please direct those questions to Ms. Roman. If you do not, then we'll move on to the next page. If time permits, because we do have a commission meeting after this, if time permits, then we will allow a certain allotment of time for questions from the public. Please keep in mind this is not our only public workshop regarding the budget. This is just our first one. Then we have another one coming up at the end of this month as well. Also, if you're in the public and you're not able to get your questions answered today, please don't hesitate to reach out to Ms. Roman or City Manager to come in and talk with them about the budget. I've talked with them. They are very open, willing, ready, and available to meet with our citizens to answer their questions as it relates to our city's budget. So at this time, we'll turn it over to City Manager.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you all commissioners that met with us so that we could definitely give you some more insight of all of the workings and putting together of this budget. I want to thank the department heads and getting together their portions and us working with them to narrow down the things that are needed and the things that we need as a city to move forward. It is a very long process, and we do our best to give you the very best budget we can give you. Surely we are not perfect, and surely there will be a mistake or two here and there, but believe me, we work hard, long hours, weekends, nights to put this budget together. We spend a lot of time because I think it's necessary for us to do that. Thank Kiki and her staff who have worked tirelessly on this as well as everyone doing their daily duties and jobs to pull this together. We've killed lots of trees, but we'll try not to kill so many in the near future. But I think it's important that you be able to see what on paper what we have. And so I'm just going to turn it over to Kiki. We're very proud that we have saved some savings here, that we've gone after some grants, and Kiki will probably talk a little bit about that, the savings in terms of us utilizing those grants. And I think it's also important that the city and staff, we're looking forward to the future. We're looking at how things will be in the future and putting things in place. And I think that's very important as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Kiki, and surely I'm available, Kiki is available, and so are the department heads available to answer questions as we go through this process.
Thank you, City Manager. I also would like to express my appreciation for the commissioners who devoted their time to come and learn this budget. It was a lengthy process. You asked really great questions. questions, and I felt that you got a real sense for what the work that goes into this. You did spend several hours with us to be formally educated on these numbers, so thank you for doing that. That's a big help to us. I also want to thank the directors who have been in every single one of their numbers, and they've done a wonderful job of making sure that this is an accurate budget for next year. On a personal note, Dawn is out. She's having a family emergency. And this was her first budget. She did a wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you, Dawn. So the introductory pages are pages 1 through 9. Those you can read at your leisure. There's not really anything that changes year to year. Page number 10 is one where we start talking about the debt service calendar. This gives you exactly when every single payment is made. That continues on page 11. Do you have any questions about the debt service calendar?
Let's get, there we are.
You good? Yeah. We'll get our timing down. Page 12 is the same number for the debt service calendar. This is just listed by debt. So the 17th Street ditch will be spending $252,000. The 2014 capital improvement bond, $212,000. As you can see, our debt service total for next year is $5,887,000. Page 13 also demonstrates that same $5,887,000. This is just broken out by the GL accounts that need to be inputted into the Munis system. Page 14 is probably the most important page to my mind in the document. It gives you a summary of where all of the money will be spent and is the fast reference guide to the budget. You will see that this year's budget is $71,100,000. It appears mathematically that we will have an increase of 16%. However, I'm very proud to tell you that the city has secured $16,773,000 worth of grant money. The grant money has zero effect. However, we do record it as a revenue and an expenditure, so it inflates all the numbers. That's why the budget is over $71 million. If we took out the $16,773,000, this budget would actually be 11% less than last year. So congratulations to all our directors. They've done a spectacular job of managing their budgets. Page 15 are the revenues. I'm sorry, did you have questions about page 14? No. Page 15 is the beginning of the general fund revenues. They continue to the end of page 16. And that's broken down by type. The first, and of course the number that the public is most interested in, is the ad valorem tax, which the millage rate will stay the same at 4.1 as it was last year. There is no change to the millage. That will bring in $5,461,000 in revenue to the city. The total general fund revenue is $19,010,800. That's at the bottom of page 16. Any questions about general fund?
I had one question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the insurance proceeds that are, the number ends with 903 towards the very bottom.
Yes.
How do we get that money, number one? And then what do we use that for?
That's going to
insurance proceeds.
replace the fire truck that was damaged recently.
Okay.
And I think we got most of that money from insurance from that, right?
Yeah.
The fire truck. We anticipate that we're going to get $20,000 for that fire truck that was damaged.
Right. And it needed to be replaced anyways, right?
Depends on who you talk to. Page 17 starts off with the new fund, Fund 021, which are the impact fees for what were originally recorded in the general fund. Now the auditing requirements state that they must be in their own fund. That will be $229,000 worth of revenue. The next section is the disaster fund for Hurricane Michael, $21,330,000 of revenue for the disaster fund. This is the bulk of the rebuild. There may be additional projects that carry over into the next fiscal year, but primarily they will be funded by insurance. This is the bulk of the FEMA money. 103 is a small fund that we use for COVID. I've only got $5,000 in there just in case it flares up again. Fund 301 is the surtax money. We see that we're going to have $3,126,000 in the revenues. Any questions about page 17? At the bottom of page 17, we start the water department. The water department will bring in $5,123,000. That's with no rate increase to the water. The sewer department ends on the bottom of page 18 at $9,523,000. There is a 4.5% increase to the sewer department that you approved a couple of meetings ago. Any questions on page 18? Page 19, this is the stormwater fund, $7,787,000. Over $5 million of this is grant funded. $5,421,000 of that money is from grants. Again, I have budgeted the same assessment that you approved for last fiscal year. It's the same assessment this fiscal year. And lastly, sanitation department, $3,000,005. And that brings us down to the impact fees that also had to be pulled out of the enterprise funds and established in their own funds, funds 501, 502, and 504. They will bring in $144,000, $521,000, and $95,000 respectively. And then the CRA budget that you just spoke about a few moments ago, that totals the budget of $71,110,000. Again, $16,773,000 of that is grant money. Any questions about the revenues?
I think you might have said this already. On top of page 19, the non ad valorem tax, that's the stormwater assessment fee, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 21 gives you a graphic representation of the expenditures. The top section will show you in categories that are usually used for businesses. It's something that you can relate to in your own personal life. The bottom section is the same money. This is just the city less the disaster fund. So that's why this doesn't tie to the 71 million. We've taken out the disaster fund here. We've got 49,708,000. The bottom section is divided by the departments that you're used to seeing for the city. The next page is the city revenue. It's basically the same distribution. It's the same $49 million. The top is broken down by where the money comes from as far as revenue sources, taxes, permits and fees, grants. There's that $16,773,000 that you're going to hear me talk about several times. And then the bottom section, again, breaks down by fund. This is the same $49 million as just expressed a different way. Any questions about those charts? Then page 23, this is the personnel cost summary. We are adding 2 full-time equivalents to the budget this year, and I'll go over those in a moment. There is a very modest COLA incorporated, so we will total out here at $13,858,000 for all personnel costs. And that is an increase of $774,000. Again, 2 full-time equivalents and a very modest COLA. Questions about that?
I made the comment in the meeting. I just wanted to say, you know, in today's day and time when we're playing catch up and having to increase people's salary to get to the $15 living wage, only $700,000 increase is pretty good stuff. I mean, I had to look at that and go, wow, because as big as our payroll is, and it's so competitive, and I know you had to give just regular increases across the board to get people up to the new standard, you know, so that's commendable.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, and there were some pretty statistically significant increases, not necessarily in dollars and cents, but statistically significant increases to our bottom of our employment pool. We are now at 14.5 as a minimum hiring rate, and that will increase by the COLA.
It's a whole different world.
All right, pages 24 through 29 give you all of the positions that the city will have. Again, we're adding 2 full-time equivalents. One is a CDL project manager in the sanitation department. That's required because of the state of Florida has implemented a lot of restrictions and a lot of reporting requirements for any of our employees who hold a CDL. So we're going to have someone who's in charge of the reporting to the state and to make sure that everything is handled properly. The other addition is to the Sports and Rec Department. That's a coordinator's position, and that's required because of the new sports complex. It's going to be going online. We just need more hands. Any questions about the positions?
On the police department, we should have Marshall and Brother on there. We've got 2 dogs. And they're part of the force.
They get paid in dog food. Page 30. This is the breakdown of the $16,773,000 that we're also very proud of. It's broken down by fund and then by funding source and then by project. So the general fund has $5,129,000. The water department has $320,000. The sewer department has $5,682,000. The stormwater fund has $5,621,000 for that total of $16,007,000. Any questions there?
I just had one question on this one. The second to the top, and you're on page 30, right?
Yes, ma'am.
For the rails to trails, don't we have 4.3 million on that one?
We do. We received that document after this document was presented. So we started with 2 million. You've approved 4,000,003. This will have to be adjusted.
Okay, and we got that in grant fund, right? The 4.3?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Page 31 through 33 are the capital assets that will be purchased, most of which, while this totals 20 million, most of this is paid from the 16,007,000. So this is just another way of showing you how we're spending the money on capital projects. The city, in actual fact, will only be spending $4 million on capital projects.
Can I ask one more question on
Yes, ma'am.
page 31, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Down in the middle, the Bayou and Preserve, where it says AutoGate and Wi-Fi, 20,000, is that because it's equipment that doesn't get included in the 10 million that we received as a grant from the beginning?
No, this will be grant funded.
Okay.
It's just we'll purchase it and the city will own it. And the gate is an automatic gate that will open.
Right.
Currently, we're paying a staff member to go and open the gate in the morning and close the gate at night. It will be automated, and that staff member's time can be better utilized elsewhere.
Thank you.
All right. On page 34 is where we get into the department budgets. You folks are on page 34. Do you have any question about legislative? 35 is executive. That's Vicky's department. Any questions about page 35? Finance, that's my department. I have absorbed an existing staff member from a different budget that is no longer being used, so my numbers are up a bit, but it's primarily because of taking on that existing staff member. Planning is on page 37. I'm sorry, do you have any questions about finance? No. Planning is on page 37. There's a modest savings there. Questions about planning? Public Works, this is Mr. Baker, Mr. Lightfoot, and their admin. There's a modest savings here of $17,000. Page 39 is the Facilities Maintenance Department. When you were in your meetings the other week, you and I and Vicki discussed the splash pad refurbishment. And we've included $100,000 towards refurbishing the splash pad at Kinsall Park. Mr. Footen can give you more information on that if you have questions. But that accounts for the increase in the Facilities Maintenance Department.
And Kiki, I'd like to point out what I pointed out in our meeting that we had, our one-on-one meeting. But, these splash pads, and I'm not saying we do anything right now, but I think it's something the city really needs to look hard at because it is a big expenditure that's only open 4 months out of the year. I think right now maybe 5. Is it 6 right now? Okay, well, 6 months out of the year. During that time, we have a hard time keeping people staffed to watch over the splash pads. Then we have litigation issues when a child falls and hurts themselves. And again, just for this board, I think it's something we need to think about, and I don't know what an answer is, but it's something we need to think about over the next year before the next budget comes around of how dedicated are we to them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But
When's probably the best time for us to have a discussion on this? Is it now or when we do the final budget about the splash pads?
Probably at our next pre-commission meeting.
Okay.
Any
'Cause
other
that'll be-
questions?
That will be before the final budget, so
Okay.
give us a chance to chew on what Commissioner Aldridge has said. So before, at our next pre-commission meeting, we can have some discussion about it, and it'll also give us some time to get some feedback from some citizens, to talk with them about that, and even follow up with our attorney in regards to any litigation from the past or that's outstanding right now. So I think it gives us time to do a little more of our homework on it.
Thanks.
All right, page 40 and 41 are admin support. There is an increase here, but primarily it's for that $2 million for the rails to trails that you just asked about, Commissioner Tinder. That's there on the bottom of page 41. Any questions about admin? Information technology is on page 42. There's a modest increase here. We have a change of accounting process. All of the munis invoices are going to be charged to the IT department so that we have a better handle of being able to monitor that budget. Any questions about IT? Law enforcement, the police department is page 43 and 44. They're basically a stagnant budget here. We do have the radio system that is included here. And that is something that we contracted with the Bay County several years ago. That will go into effect, or the radios are being affected now, but we're going to start paying for it next year. Any questions about the police department?
No, I'm just going to make a comment that I know I brought this up multiple times before about how home rule is so important to me, and this is a perfect area where there's a $4.3 million budget, and if we get very little money from the amount of fines and that get sent out, and I think that's something that would substantially help us if we could control that. But I just want to make that comment.
I think the only thing we can do is just give out more tickets. I mean, that's all we can do to increase our revenue from that.
Well, not that I'm trying to push the right tickets or anything. That's not my point.
Page 45 and 46 is the fire department. As we previously discussed, we spent quite a bit of time and analysis on looking at the hiring rate. The minimum rate has been raised for the fire department. We will be looking at that again in the future. That accounts for quite a bit of the increase for personnel services. And you'll see at the very last entry, the vehicle, $52,000. That's what we're assuming that SUV is going to cost us. Any questions about the fire department? 47 is code enforcement. Small decrease there. We have only budgeted $10,000 for demolition next year. Questions? Human resources is page 49. That does have a significant increase. Again, same explanation. This is going to take over all of the liability insurance for the entire city so that it's easier for us to monitor. Questions about HR? Bayou Preserve is page 50. That money is reimbursable from the Triumph Fund grant. So while we will be spending $323,000 on the Bayou, it is going to be reimbursed back to the city. The questions about the Bayou? Page 51 is the budgeting department that I mentioned earlier that is no longer used, and that employee was moved into the finance department. Page 52, customer service. I'm very proud to say that Stephanie's done a wonderful job here, and the budget is exactly flat from last year. Streets is, questions about customer service. Streets, page 53 and 54. 2 grant-funded projects here, the legislative paving and the sidewalks on Minnesota and Mosley. Those total $2,100,000, which is the primary reason for the increase in streets. Questions? Fleet management has a small increase of $36,000. We're purchasing them some equipment to be able to handle the fuel management more accurately and easily and help the staff there. Any questions about fleet management? Economic development does have an increase. Again, this is based on the vulnerability assessment grant. I have to slow down for that one. $160,000 that will help us review what the needs are of the city, and the grant is, as it is, I said, is a grant. They'll be paying for that assessment. Questions about economic development? Library, of course, we will not have any expenditures. Sports and rec are pages 58 and 59. We did do some reshuffling between sports and rec and parks and grounds. So we'll see a modest decrease here, even though we have an additional staff member in here. It's just a matter of reallocation. Question about parks and rec. Parks and grounds, page 60 and 61 does have an increase of $29,790. Again, it has to do with us moving between the 2 departments and tightening the budgets up so that they're more appropriate. Questions about parks and grounds? Communications and marketing, we do have an increase of $197,000. Included in this budget are more special events. Next year, we will be happy to be moving into the new City Hall. Of course, we'll have a special event for that. When the new sports complex opens, of course, there will be a special event for that. We have also included the fireworks and the barge for the fireworks included in this budget. Questions about marketing? Animal control has a modest decrease, and that is just a little bit of everything here. They've done a wonderful job of monitoring that. Questions about animal control? General fund impact fees. You've never seen this before. There's $229,000. Again, as I said, this is an audit requirement. These monies were included in general fund previously. Questions about the impact fees? CRA expenditures are page 65 and 66. You went over that in your previous meeting, but do you have any questions? Okay. Now we're to the enterprise funds. Page 67 in the water department through page 69. Again, no increase to rates. We do have $316,000 increase here. And I'm going to not remember the number, so I'm going to switch back to page 14 and tell you $320,000 of that is grant funding. So that accounts for the increase. Questions about the water department? Sewer department starts on page 70, finishes on page 71. They have $5,682,000 worth of grant funding, which is actually less than their increase. So they've tightened their budget. I'm very proud of that. Questions about the sewer department? Stormwater, page 72 and 73, also has an increase of $3,384,000. However, $5,621,000 of that is grant funding. So again, they actually have reduced their budgets. Questions? Sanitation, $3,005,000. This is the healthiest of the enterprise funds, and they will be purchasing 2 side loader garbage trucks next year to replace 2 that were damaged by lightning several years ago. Questions about sanitation? Enterprise impact fees, again, same explanation. You have never seen these before. They now are in their own budgets. They were in the enterprise funds before. Water will be $144,000, sewer $521,000, and stormwater $95,000. Questions about the impact fees? Pages 76 through 78, that's our disaster recovery. Again, $21 million this year. The lion's share of the projects will be completed. I'm confident I will come back with another budget for next year. However, it will be substantially less and primarily funded by insurance. Questions about the disaster fund?
I just had a question, but it has nothing to do with the money. When do we plan, or do we have a date or a time when we're going to replace the 2 border signs?
Yes.
The city hall signs?
Yes.
Or the city signs?
The city signs
Yeah.
that the Mosley kids did. Is that what you're talking about, the
kids
entrance
designed
sign?
them
Yes,
a couple of years ago or
So,
that.
yeah, that is, I think that is still in the hands of the design, and then it'll go out to bid, and then it will be constructed. I think it's actually in economic development budget that we're going to do that this year. It's a great
Anything else?
project, and they've taken what the Mosley student did and enhanced it even more as we check with them. It's going to be very nice when they finish.
COVID expenditures on page 79, we put $5,000 in there just for cleaning supplies, masks, and the whatnot, just in case. Questions about that? And lastly, the surtax. This is the half-cent that is sent to us we have used it primarily in the past for paving projects. We are also going to use $850,000 of it for legislative stormwater match repairs. So there'll be $3,126,000 for surtax. And that's the budget.
Thank you. At this time, we'll allot time for the public to ask questions. Mr. Scray.
Ryan Scray, Missouri Avenue. A few questions. First, the stormwater assessment budget that you put in there, you said you kept it the same as last year. I'm just curious why, because Stantec's recommending it be increased, so why wouldn't you plan for an increase?
Because the commission didn't vote on the increase.
But you could still plan for one when the expert's telling you to increase it. But okay.
Hey, Brian, just for clarification, once that's put on the tax roll, you can go down, but you can't go up. So we had to have something there as a placeholder for the tax roll for the assessment. So at that point, you can't.
You can go down but not up. So if the commission were to vote later today to increase the stormwater assessment, you can't decrease it?
You would have,
can't
we would have
increase.
to send mailed notices to every
single
parcel owner in the city.
So wouldn't it have made more sense to plan for an increase and then to just decrease it so you didn't have to do that?
If the commission wanted to increase it, but I think their goal was to try to find grant funding and alternate sources and keep your non-ad valorem assessments low.
All right. In the marketing budget, I saw $30,000 for printing and binding that wasn't previously forecasted. What is that?
Excuse me. That is our city newsletter that we send out to residents now. It is actually, we do it in-house, make all the adjustments in-house, and then we send it to printing and stuff into the utility bill. Just another way to communicate with all of our residents. what all
Okay, so it's
things
just
do.
additional costs for the extra insert into the utility bill?
Printing and insert.
Okay. And then, you, at the beginning, you mentioned that you were thanking the commissioners who met with you. Did some of them not meet with you to discuss the budget? And if so, which ones?
Me.
All right, thank you.
All right, additional questions from the public? Yes. Yep. Please come to the microphone so we can hear you.
You have done a page on the debt service calendar, page 10. Okay. Do you have a calendar of the debts that we will still be owing after the fiscal year 2023? You show maturity dates, but you don't. Is that in here? Did not have it in here. Okay. The other question was regarding the 4.5% increase in the wastewater. Was that included already in the prices there?
All right, additional questions from the public? Mr. Walker?
Continuing on the wastewater, I do not see anywhere on any bills or any indication about wastewater charges. There's no recollection, no record of it anywhere as being a charge. And then I noticed that, as was discussed, a 4.5% increase in the wastewater charges. Well, I don't find anywhere where we're being charged for wastewater. Trying to find out why this and how this 4.5% increase, I have been informed or found out that wastewater is considered like sewage, okay? And the only way to judge wastewater is to whatever comes in, which is water, is basis for what the charge is for wastewater and sewage. So in essence, what you're doing is you're increasing the charge for water, which is enterprise funds. This
Right.
commissioner has always been under the impression that the enterprise funds are not profit-making. You've learned a lesson. It is. It is a business. So you're increasing the price of the water in, but you're putting into the public information that you're increasing the wastewater charge. I don't understand that, because the only way you can increase the wastewater charge, if there is a charge, is increase the inbound water. So what are we doing? Are we increasing the inbound water, or are we establishing a new charge which is not there on wastewater?
I mean, first of all, wastewater, it would be on your bill. It's probably going to say sewer. It's your sewer charge. So you have your water rate and you have a sewer rate. You're right, they do base your sewer rate on the number of gallons of water that you use. But so you have one rate for your water, and then you have a rate for your sewer, and it's just based on that metered amount. But so say it was $4 per 1,000 gallons, it went up to $4.10. I'm just making these numbers up. It went up 4%. So that's what wastewater is. What you're saying, it's the sewer on your utility bill, and it's measured and metered by the number of gallons of water that you use.
And I know we talked about this before. I'm sorry, if I could speak. I know we talked about this before. For 10,000 gallons, it's about $3.13. So I actually did analysis of my family, because I run a pretty tight ship in my house. And our average is about 5,500 gallons. And I read online, depending on what you read, it's about 2,000 gallons a month per person. So we got 4 people, should be 8,000. So I think we're doing pretty good. So I'm figuring an extra couple bucks a month for me.
I can understand the dialogue back, but semantics doesn't work.
All right, what's your specific
work that
question,
way.
sir?
Uh,
Your specific question, yes.
Yeah, it just doesn't equate. We're being spun something that is not there. For example, you get the impression when you ask the sewer people, where's the wastewater? It's not there. Where is the connection between the sewer and the wastewater? That isn't there. Sewer system is supposed to be separate from the sewage system and the wastewater. They're not. As the last rain came, you found out exactly it is not separate. So you're putting a burden on your sewage system, but you're raising the water for the people. Thank you.
Either Bobby or Greg can come and talk about the sewer. An enterprise fund means that it's enterprising, that is self-sufficient. And so that is one thing that should happen with each enterprise fund. And I don't think this commission has ever thought that they were not enterprising in terms of self-sufficiency. I think you've always known that they're in their own silo.
Yes, so the water and sewer enterprise funds are two separate charges. There's no connection between the water and the sewer other than we're using the gallons through the water meter to tell you what left your house. We also cap that sewer at 12,000 gallons. So if you've had a leak or watered your garden off the household faucets, that sewer is capped at 12,000 gallons. And that's been that way forever. But the two charges are separate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions regarding the budget? Thank you all for coming out. Our next meeting will begin at, I believe it's 5:30 p.m. Meeting adjourned.